Konami Studios.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally reached the end of Season 4 of Rick and Morty. And I was going to do a full-on review of the season, talking about what I liked, what I didn't like, because there's a lot that I thought was kind of uninteresting and not that good. But instead, I thought we would rank every episode in this season. So there's 10 episodes, so it's going to be ranking all 10 episodes in order from worst to best. It's my opinion. Just remember that when we do this ranking, like, you could be right, I could be right, you could be wrong, I could be wrong, it doesn't really matter. But I felt this was the best way to get my opinions on the series across and this season, so we'll just jump into it. Let's just have fun, talk about it, and see where we go. So coming in at number 10 for me is Primordius, and this is episode 7 of the season. I thought this was just really boring and basic and uninspired and didn't do anything new or original. The premise dragged on for too long and it wasn't that funny. The only joke that was hilarious was when they forgot summer on the planet. Everything else was uninspired, unabashful, and just kind of filler. It felt like a filler episode. Like I said, it felt like it dragged on for such a long time, but it really didn't, which kind of sucked because it was really short and it didn't matter because the story went back and forth between what happened with Summer on the planet, what happened with Rick and Morty on the planet. It wasn't interesting. And like I said, the only good joke was when they forgot Summer, so they had to go back and get her. And it took so long to get to the opening credits that I didn't feel anything watching this one. It just kind of left me bored and uninspired. So that's where I put it on my list. And coming in at number 9. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the titles here because I fucking hate the titles for these shows. I don't like it. I get you're doing the pun with the super movies or whatever with Rick and Morty and all that. I hate them. So we got Claw and Hoarder, Special Rickdom's Morty. This episode was absolute garbage. I hated everything about it. Morty wants a dragon. He gets a dragon. The dragon bonds with you through gross, sexual, touchy kind of stuff. It wasn't funny. I don't like the idea that there's magic in this universe. I think it kind of defeats the purpose of Rick being good at what he does. I will say I did like the voice. Oh, what's his name? Davos from Game of Thrones was the voice of the dragon. I just blanked on his name. I had it ready, but I just forgot it. I thought he was really cool as the dragon. It didn't look bad, but overall I found it more cringy than I found it good. So that's why it's so low on the list at number 9. And it is episode 4 of this season. And coming in at number 8 is episode 8 of the series, and it is the Vat of Acid episode. There's a lot of good in this episode. I really do think so. I think my favorite part is when they're actually in the Vat of Acid. If the whole episode was like that, I think it'd be funny. But then you go like, Morty's trying to prove himself to be smarter than Rick, so Rick builds a device that gives Morty the ability to kind of just, it's like a video game, you save your progress where you are, so if you die, you go back to where you were. It's a funny idea. Some jokes run on for too long and they don't really have a purpose. We get whole montages of Morty in one life, and then when it stops, you're like, okay, this is very Rick and Morty, but it wasn't that interesting to see. And then we just see Rick is being a usual dick. And I know that's the premise of the show, that Rick is an asshole, but I don't really care when he gets too over the top and he's like, no, Morty, you didn't actually go back in, to your progress there. There's infinite possibilities and you were a part of all of them and all those Mortys are dead or all the consequences you made in those worlds are there and the only way to free your guilt is to go back into the Vat of Acid because my ideas are smart. That kind of premise came out better earlier in the season and I think it worked better there, but this one, it again, like Primordius, it felt like filler. It didn't really serve a purpose, so I didn't really think much of it. It kind of sucked, but it's okay. I mean, it wasn't the worst of the season. I do think the previous 2 episodes were way worse. And coming in at number 7 of this season is The Old Man and the Seat. This, again, okay idea. Rick has a special place he likes to take a shit. Some guy finds that out. Taika Waititi as the Glip Glop. Is that what his name is? Kind of funny. I like the angle more of the app development and just the fast-paced energy of like everyone's falling in love with different people every couple of seconds and it just turns into chaos around the world. I think that was way better than the actual story with the taking a shit on the toilet. That just kind of was dumb. And again, dumb can work okay in this show, but that didn't hit it in the way I wanted it to. So it didn't really mean that much to me. These first, I think, actually the first 6 or maybe 5 episodes, I didn't think were that good. But the top five or 4, I think are really good. So coming in at number 6 is Childrick of Mort. This is actually not the worst episode of the season. I think this one shows what the premise of the show should be, because you actually get Rick fighting God, which I know is going to make a lot of people happy because Rick's so cool and badass. Rick is actually my least favorite character on the show. And I don't know, I think a lot of that has to do with Dan Harmon's writing. And I kind of like Dan Harmon. He's made Community, and I love Community. That's one of my favorite shows. But sometimes I think his writing is just like he's just a dick for no reason, and I don't like that. I think you need to justify your reasons for hating things. Just because you say we're doing a stupid thing like a Star Wars or an Ant-Man and the Wasp, or we're making a reference to a certain thing, you gotta justify that with an actual reason that makes sense if you're gonna parody it. Instead of just saying it sucks because you're doing it. I know, because I'm writing a character and a story that is a lot like that too, where this character calls out things like, oh, this is just like what happens in a cowboy thing or that. And you got to do it in a way that works, or it's going to come across as you're a dick and you're better than your audience, which I don't think Dan Harmon is, but I think he thinks he is, if that makes sense. So Childrick of Mort, he fights God. Beth and Jerry go to war with different versions of Rick's kids. So it was an okay episode, and it was I think in the latter half of the season, because it's episode 9. It was like the one I liked the most in the latter half. I think just like the last 3 episodes, because it was just interesting in a different way. I don't know. See what happens there. So we are on episode 5, which I put is Edge of Morty, Rick Die, Rick Pete. I don't like that title. I find it annoying. And I keep talking shit about this show, but I go back and watch it because I do like it sometimes, and it's kind of fun that way. This is how you start the season. It was fine. Like, Rick going into different bodies, I think, is a really funny bit. I like when he goes into the Wasp, when he goes into the fascist one. It's funny. It's not dumb. It was pretty entertaining. But again, it felt like a classic episode that you get in like a season 1 or a season 2. So I just didn't think that much of it. There were some good jokes, some things landed, some things didn't. It wasn't one that really grabbed me the way these other 4 have. So it was okay. I'm not going to complain about it. Coming in at number 4 is, oh my god, I hate these titles. One Crew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This makes, it doesn't have anything to do with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, so I don't know why they chose that title. You could do like Oshrick's 11, and I think that would have been funnier than One Crew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I liked this episode. This was, I think, episode 3 of the season. It was really funny. The whole premise is they are trying to build a crew to get into a crew place to stop that kind of stuff. This is how you do the parody. This is how you make fun of a parody, because the whole time Rick is having an argument with Morty about like, this is cool, this is dumb, this is how you do it. This is how it should be done as compared to other things, because you see both sides of it. You see why it's cool. There's a bunch of cool characters showing up. Elon Tusk is kind of funny, but he's kind of weird now, so it's not that interesting. There's a lot of good stuff that way, but everything else about it I think is really well done. Rick fighting with the robot about being programmed to do a program to do a program to do a program was really funny, and then all culminating in the idea that Rick set the whole thing up because he doesn't want Morty to sell a script to Netflix about making a crew or a heist film because they're all cliches. And Morty agrees with him. That was funny. That is what you should do here, and that is how this works. I liked that a lot, surprisingly. Like, I think that was really funny. It's the first time, I think, this in the season where I was like, yeah, I like where this is going. This is a really fun season. So that was really fun. Coming in at number 3 is the season finale, and that is called, oh my god, let's see what we got. Star Morty, Return of the Jerry. Yeah, make fun of Star Wars some more, why don't you? The whole making fun of Star Wars part is not why I put this one so high. I don't like the way they made fun of Star Wars. Everything else I liked. It gave us a lot of stuff we wanted to see, which was like Phoenix Person, Tammy, and the clone of Beth, which I liked that stuff. Sad Rick is what I like more than most versions of Rick, so I liked seeing that too at the end there. But it's a pretty good episode. Some great stuff with the invisibility belt and just the joke of Summer and Morty coming together, that being their arc for the season. I thought that was really funny, really entertaining stuff. I liked seeing the clone Beth, or whatever Beth it is, actually do something cool, have this kind of resistance going up against the Empire pretty much. It was really fun stuff, and it felt like a classic Rick and Morty episode. Like, I didn't have anything wrong with this episode. I thought it was really well done, really impressive, and I cannot wait to see what happens next, because we see that Rick keeps Bird Person as Phoenix Person alive in this weird place, but he's a terrible father because he doesn't even know which Beth is the real Beth, which is kind of sad in a way, but it's very Rick, so I liked seeing that too. Jerry pretending Tammy was still alive, holding up her corpse while he's invisible, was great, and the joke that the Wrangler jeans can stop the entire laser, that's brilliant. I thought that was some really funny stuff, and I really liked seeing that. And coming in at number 2 for this season is Rattle Star Rick Lactica. This feels like a very good Rick and Morty premise. It's just snake time travel. They stop Snake Hitler. They stop Snake Abraham Lincoln assassination. You know, it's so good, and then turns into a Terminator plot on a snake planet, all because Morty, you know, got bit by a snake and it was in space. It was brilliant, and then he sends it back, and that's how it's kind of... I love it. I really loved this episode. It was classic. I think I heard that they were going to do this in an earlier season, but they didn't because they didn't have time or they want to do other stuff. But this was a really good episode, and shows what this season can do and what this show can be, because it was so funny. That's how you do a reference again. I love the whole snake jazz stuff. Everything about the snake stuff here was really good. This is how they closed off the first half of the season, it being episode 5, and it worked really well. I really, really liked this episode. Everything was just perfect for it. I love the idea of the snakes being the Terminator, going back in time, helping their family, and then Rick and Morty just kind of be like, oh, they're snakes, let's just kill them easily. It's not going to be a challenge. They're snakes. I think it's hilarious. It is good stuff. And it would have been my number 1 if not for this one. And that is episode 6 of season 4, The Never Ricking Morty. This is what this show knows how to do really well, and that is do meta in a way that works for the show. This entire episode, Rick and Morty are trapped on an anthology train, and they keep going to flashbacks and cutaways, and they're trying to get to the end of the train, but the entire train is this like weird infinity train where everything is an arc for their characters, trying to get to the one place. And they have to go through certain things here. And even it's pretty much just Dan Harmon talking about how good of a story writer he is because of like his 8-arc program. We have to lose here so we can regain, you know, confidence here, and we have to have a struggle here so our morality is better here. They're talking about all that stuff. The Bechdel test that's a great reference because it's going to be one that a lot of people know. They're going to be like, yeah, I know what that is. I'm a, you know, guy who studied stuff. But I actually have studied the Bechdel test in a program I took when I went to college, so I knew a lot about that. I thought it was hilarious to reference that, and then Morty trying to make a story with his mom and sister where they're just trying not to talk about men. I thought it was hilarious. That was so funny to see. It was just really interesting and really entertaining, so I had a great time with that. And this episode, it's meta in the way it should be. They don't know if they're trapped in a callback. They don't know if they're trapped in a flashback. And it's all just pretty much like, you bought something. Capitalism is good. You did something, Morty. You bought a train of real money. Yes, you did that. Advertise, purchase stuff, franchise, do that. It's so funny, and it's such a great way to bring the show back, because that is how you do it. Everything about it was so good. And then there's the idea of how the series could end with the evil Morty, with the Phoenix Person, with the army of Meeseeks, and then at the end of that, Rick is just like, you know what, Morty, let's just pray to Jesus and pray to God, and that's how we can solve all our problems. This episode is brilliant. This is one of the smartest episodes of television I've seen, even if it comes across as arrogant from Dan Harmon's perspective. I love it. Everything about it worked really well. I'm so happy it was there. So overall, my thoughts on this season are very mixed. I think there's a lot of low points, but the high points really bring it up for me. There's some stuff I was excited to see, and there's some stuff that I was disappointed in. But if I had to rank the entire season as a whole on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'd give it about a 5. I think there's enough stuff in there that I liked it, and I'm probably going to go back and watch a couple of those episodes I think are really good. I know I want to see Rattle Star Galactica again because that's really good, and I do want to show people Never Ricking Morty because it's brilliant stuff. And season 4, go check it out. I mean, you get a lot of classic Rick and Morty, and the stuff that's bad, it kind of weighs the good, so it's about equal, and you're not going to be upset or complain. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys. That is my ranking of season 4 of Rick and Morty, and I will catch you guys in the next video, in the next review. You can check me out on Patreon, Instagram, and Twitter. So have a good one. Stay safe out there. These times are trying, so good luck, be safe, don't do anything stupid. Thank you. Good night.